What's up, fellas, ladies, gentlemen, children of all ages? Wake up, Mintzy. We're not live in the Chicago office. We're still freezing our ass off, but we're here. We're fired up to be here on this Wednesday morning. We got a lot of football to get to. Ton of fun stuff going on in the Barstool world, as always. And no better way to start your day drinking some Stella Blue coffee. Amazing coffee. Thank you, Big Cat. And we got Dude Wipes, as always, to clean up our messes. We're about to be joined by Nick Underhill of the New Orleans Football Network to talk about talk a lot of football, but a lot of New Orleans Saints stuff. What's up, Nick? How are you this morning?
Hey, doing great, man. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Just, a lot of stuff going on right now. Obviously, you're mixing it up in New Orleans. The New Orleans Saints looking for a new head coach off what was, worst season for the Saints since the Katrina year when they went 3-13 and cleaned it out before Breeze and Peyton. I guess we'll start with that, but I got a bunch of questions for you. Probably not your favorite season to cover the Saints, I would imagine.
No, I'm glad it's over, man. It was definitely a really tough year for them, and injuries obviously played a part, but the culture started to kind of erode a little bit in the locker room. Dennis Allen had to go. I think Darren Rizzi kind of did a good job of preserving it a little bit and making sure that everything didn't go off the rails. But I think it's just time for a fresh start for the team. And, it's time to turn the page. They tried to keep it together. It kind of made some sense at the time. Sean Payton quits. Team isn't really that bad. They try to hold on and glue it together. But that's just kind of feels like it's ran its course, and now you're going into the season. You're negative $67 million in cap space. You don't have a lot of good young players. It's a good time for them to kind of hopefully let go of the past and just reboot and start something new.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of been the theme with the Saints forever is the cap space stuff, and then they would convert bonuses and do all kinds of tricks to get under it every year. But they kind of just rolled over the cap debt year after year after year to try to win the NFC South, and it feels like the credit card bills do now.
Yeah, it definitely is. And look, there's going to have to be some more of that this year just because they got to find a way to get cap compliant. You got to clear $60-some million to get under, and it's really going to limit their moves. And they've started a little bit to try to, reset it a little bit. But yeah, it is that. It's basically you're doing a charge off on one credit card, then you're charging it off on another. And, at a certain point that interest bill does become due. And when you're winning, it makes sense. Like the Eagles kind of do the same thing. A lot of teams do the same thing. But when you're doing this to win like 7, 8, 9 games, 5, like it is no longer feasible, and it doesn't make sense. It's time to let go and just move forward. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Derek Carr's contract's one that I'm kind of looking at. I could possibly see him, being let go if the new coach wants to go another direction. And then guys like, Cam Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu, Demario Davis, they're older and at the end of their contract. So I think change is going to come because it's here. Like they can't avoid it anymore, and it's something that they got to figure out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. How long ago does it feel like that Cowboys game was when the Saints just massacred them like 44-19 or whatever to start 2-0? Saints scored like 90-something points first 2 weeks against Cowboys and Carolina, and then 3-12 down the stretch.
I can't remember a bigger turnaround ever, like in a season. After week 2, like you were legitimately having to look at like the 07 Patriots to find teams that were scoring points at that rate, and then it just went straight to ass. Like it's unbelievable how bad they became quickly after that. And some of the injuries struck, but there's probably some smoke and mirrors with their new offense. They had a really physical, hardcore training camp, and I think that allowed them to hit the ground running. But then once everybody got their legs under them, they caught up, and that gap kind of got closed a little bit. But just the duality of like the start and the finish is unbelievable. And honestly, like after that Dallas game, like my thought process was like, all right, at least they're going to be relevant all season long. And they were not relevant, for 2 weeks after that. Just a wild, like going off the rails.
Yeah, that Eagles game week 3 when they lost 12-7 and just everybody went down. And on both sides, it just felt like that game, man, just so many. That was where the injury thing started, and they lost that heartbreaker in Atlanta week 4, and it felt like it was just like over after that. Like it was just crazy. It was just crazy how fast it happened.
And then got punched in the mouth in Kansas City. Yeah, that was basically it from there. The Philly game wasn't even that bad. Like it was like a hard-fought game against a good team, and Atlanta was close. Like, but yeah, the Kansas City game for me was the one that was kind of like the rude awakening that like, all right, like this is not real. It was fake. Then guys got hurt, Carr got hurt, and it was just all back from that.
Well, I agree with what you said about Rizzi. He won some games. He kept them competitive. I mean, down the stretch, you were looking at a team with, I mean, it was all replacement talent at skill positions. You had O linemen out like crazy. You know, you took a pretty long look at Spencer Rattler. What was your? I felt like it was kind of hard to almost even evaluate him because he was playing with such replacement level talent. But there was some good, there was some bad. Where are you on him right now?
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Some good, some bad. I think it could go either direction. I mean, look, he doesn't have Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller, Eric McCoy, the center, left guards out. Like, you're down 7, 8 starters on offense. It's tough to kind of get a real evaluation of him. There were some things that he did really well. I thought he made some big time throws, especially in this last game. And there were 3 different times where he put together like an amazing half where you're going into it like, wow, this guy might actually be something. And then the wheels kind of fall off on it, and some of it was like his accuracy would go crazy and look terrible. He'd miss some throws, like, so it isn't all just everything around him. But I'm curious to find out what he can develop into. There's something there. I don't know that he would get all the way there. I mean, I think with any young quarterback, the odds are against them of figuring it out. But I would rather, lose 12 games with Spencer Rattler than Derek Carr. Like, at least it would feel like you're building towards something. And the Carr thing feels like a direction. Like, Spencer Rattler thing feels like figure it out, and if it doesn't work, find another direction, and maybe you're in position to get a good draft pick in 26 at that position. But I was encouraged by him at times, and discouraged other. Like, it's kind of like an incomplete grade. And yeah, I mean, I think it'd be hard for anyone though to succeed when top 2 receivers are out. Taysom Hill, your top tight end, top running back, 2 offensive line. Like, it's not like conducive to success at that point. But there were some moments for sure, and like I was definitely encouraged by some of the stuff we saw from him.
Yeah, the Raiders' first half, he was awesome. He played really well first half of the Bucs game, and then slowed down in the second half of both games. But all right, well, everybody wants to know about the coaching search stuff. Names, a lot of names. I mean, Aaron Glenn seems to be the name that's mentioned the most, which makes a ton of sense. Played for the Saints, secondary coach from 2016 to 2020. So many ties to the organization. Mickey Loomis, the president, seems like he likes to take guys he knows just in general. And then Drew Brees, kind of gave him as an endorsement. Would you say he would be the front runner right now?
I think he'd probably be my betting favorite. I'm surprised to see like Joe Brady is the number one on a lot of those things, and I think they have like Glenn listed third on some of these books. I don't know that. Like, I think I saw Aaron Glenn at like plus 800. Like, that's a bet that I would put some money on. Like, if it feels like I would have those odds a little bit different. The Jets are kind of the team you got to look for with him. But yeah, I think Glenn's probably the guy that makes the most sense for them. There's obviously he played here, he coached here at one point, came up under Sean Payton and Dennis Allen, and I think he just probably is the best candidate in the side of like ones that they could actually get. Like, I don't think they're going to try to talk to Mike Vrabel, but it feels like Vrabel's already going to New England, so I don't think that's a thing. I don't get the sense that Ben Johnson's interested in this situation. So to me, I think Glenn's probably the next guy on that list. But the person that I would say that might be laying in the weeds a little bit is if, what is it, the 14th, Mike McCarthy can become a free agent, and they did just deny an interview request to the Bears. I think if McCarthy gets on the other side of that's somebody that becomes of high interest here. So he's maybe the other guy that I got my eye on, but them denying that request to Chicago makes me feel like he might be sticking in Dallas.
Yeah, so on the Glenn front, and I've got some McCarthy questions too, where are you on Glenn? Because like my first instincts were, I don't know if I want to get another defensive coordinator, but now that I've thought about it more, I mean, comes out of the great winning Saints culture, comes out of the great winning Lions culture. He's well respected in the league. I mean, I feel like he'll be connected enough to put together a decent assistant staff. I'm kind of talking myself into it a little bit. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I feel like I went through the same process. Like, my first thought on it was like, I don't want them to go to somebody that has ever touched this plate, like just start something completely new. And then you kind of realize that that's kind of like a bullshit thing to think. And you get on, you go through the thought process, and all right, like, he might actually be like the best leader of people that and I don't know a ton about Mike Kafka. Like, I got to look into him, some of these other guys, but like I used to watch Aaron Glenn like lead the secondary, kind of really go at Marshawn Lattimore, a guy who early in his career like needed some hard coaching to stay focused in that. So I think that he has those qualities, and he is coaching a good defense. So I think the idea of him makes sense. Like, I would be okay with that hire. And out of the group of people that I think they can feasibly get, I think he's the one that I would have earmarked that for me, he feels like the best candidate. But I don't know. Like I thought Da was going to do okay here, and obviously that went super sideways. So I'm not the person you want hiring your next coach, but I think I think there's a lot to like about that idea, and I think it would make a lot of sense. Like out of the group of people, you know, him, Kellen Moore, Joe Brady, Kafka, Rizzi, he's the one that stands out to me is that feels like the most ready to be a head coach.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way, and he's also talks to Bill Parcells, and like I said, I mean, I wasn't too excited about it when I heard it at first, but then I'm kind of talking myself into it. The Mike McCarthy thing is fascinating. So his contract's up the 14th, as you said. Dallas denied him an interview to Chicago. A lot of people, I feel like he gets a bad rap, to be honest. Obviously we all know he won a Super Bowl in Green Bay with Rodgers. Dallas went 12-5 3 years in a row, and even this year, when it looked like it was going really sideways, they played really well down the stretch. They fought hard without Dak. They won a bunch of games. Should have won the Bengals Monday night game. I actually like that idea of McCarthy because you'll have a good NFL offense, and he knows how to. He's got so much experience. I feel like I've kind of been in the minority, and people are telling me I'm crazy to be excited about McCarthy, but I definitely could see worse moves.
There's definitely worse moves. I definitely wouldn't be excited about it, and it's probably just because McCarthy has bad PR. Like he probably has the worst PR of any coach that has won as many games as he has. Like people just don't like him. And it feels like kind of maybe settling for mediocrity. But I would say that I think like he raises the floor on any situation quite a bit. Like he's a competent head coach. You aren't gonna lose a ton of games with him. I just. Like if you're asking me to pick someone out of a box and who can you have, like I'm probably going with the guy that I feel like has just like what Mike McCarthy is, and it feels like there's a limited upside there, and that might be extremely unfair. It might be extremely unfair in this division, playing with all kinds of bad teams. You probably your upside probably goes up, but like if you could just kind of give me the person that it just feels like Aaron Glenn is all potential. Like I'm gonna go with the potential in that, and maybe try to chase something that goes a little bit higher. I will say if they hire him, I think the fan base would be incredibly harsh, but like that reaction doesn't matter. If you go out and you win games, people get on your side really quickly. So, I do think McCarthy would be fine. It's just kind of a matter of how high are you aiming, and that floor on him and whatever the floor is on Aaron Glenn, Kafka, Joe Brady. Like McCarthy's floor is way higher than the other guys because you don't know what the other ones are. But I think it would be a tough sell to this fan base, especially after coming, on the heels of Dennis Allen and them kind of feeling like they've settled. I feel like McCarthy would bring a sense of like maybe settling, just for something like safe and playing it safe and sticking kind of with what you know.
All right, on the Joe Brady front, I mean, obviously the fan base, like with his ties to former Saints assistant, especially being the LSU offensive coordinator in 19, and how much goodwill he has in Louisiana, seems like a lot of people want that route. Do you feel he's done a freaking spectacular job in Buffalo? Because when they fired Ken Dorsey middle of last season, remember how much Allen was turning the ball over? They weren't committed to the running game, and then then Brady this year. I mean, Josh Allen had like 8 turnovers all year. You're looking at one of the best offenses in the NFL that somehow did it without a 1,000-yard rusher, a 1,000-yard receiver. Allen's about to win the MVP. I mean, his stock couldn't be higher right now. Do you think he's ready to be an NFL head coach?
I think that's the big question. I mean, it feels, early, but if he's ready, he's ready. The thing that I can't get out of my head is when he went to Carolina and just how like spectacularly bad that situation went. And I remember this quote by Teddy Bridgewater. I think it was something situationally. I think red zone. He's like, we didn't even like rep red zone in practice, and it was just kind of like, what's going on here? But I'm sure he's learned some of his lessons. He had to go back, be a QB coach, lick his wounds, raise up to the ranks again, and has been in a really good system. I like his pedigree for sure. It's just, yeah, I think that's the question is he ready to do it? And I think you just got to have, like a very thorough interview process with him to make sure that he's checking all those boxes. He has the vision. If it isn't now, at some point though, like he's absolutely going to get that opportunity. And there has been some greatness in his path. That Carolina thing is really the only situation you kind of gotta answer for. And you said the piece about Josh right there. I mean, you always got to look at someone as like, is the quarterback raising the coach? Is this a, Peyton Manning, Adam Gase thing? Is it Brady, Josh McDaniels? And when they get out on their own, what's it going to look like? But he has actually helped him elevate his game a little bit, as you said. So I like the pedigree. if we're ranking him, he's probably second. Him and Kellen Moore, like right there for me, on that list.
I'm curious when they're evaluating because like the head coach thing is so much more of an administrational thing. You got to put together staff. You got to do all this stuff. Like someone like Brady that's that young and only been in the NFL. I mean, you almost worry like what would his assistant staff look like? Like, does he have the connections to get them? And I wonder if is that like a concern?
It's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I imagine that would be part of the process too. Like who's coming with you? Like who's tied in with you? He's somebody that I would want to take a shot with though if I'm a DC. But like I think the thing that you would have to do if you hire him, like if you need to make sure that you kind of get like that like guy that's been around for a while is the DC that can come in and kind of maybe help him command the system, or even if it's not the DC being like someone that's well tenured, like a Dan Campbell type that can kind of be like a commander of men a little bit and help you in that aspect. And I think that's kind of the piece that they need to figure out this time. And as I look back and do kind of the autopsy of like the Dennis Allen administration, like I do think if he had like a Dan Campbell or they fired their wide receiver coach right away, man, what the hell's his name? The used to be the Tulane coach.
Who? Curtis Joseph?
Yeah, CJ. Yeah, like he was somebody that was kind of a the bad cop in the locker room, and they got rid of him right away too. And then I don't think they had that commanding presence anywhere on their staff. Like it wasn't Pete Carmichael, it wasn't DA. They had a lot of young coaches, and I think this time around, like whoever it is, like I think they need to take that lesson and make sure that they're building a staff around their head coach to where any of those blind spots are filled in. Like I feel like DA's blind spots didn't get filled in. So if you need, if you get a leader of men, make sure you got the coordinators tied in with him. If it's Joe Brady and he needs help with the administration, make sure there's somebody on staff that can kind of, maybe has been a former head coach and can guide him through some of that and be that consigliere to him. But that was, I feel like, the big miss with the Dennis Allen administration is that staff I don't think was fully built out to where his weaknesses could be hidden. And I think you just got to be aware of those. So if that's it with Joe, or if you get a leader of men, like make sure you have the right coordinators tied in with it.
That makes sense. Okay, on the David Shaw front, what the heck happened? Because he was going to get an interview, now he's not going to get an interview. Obviously he did well at Stanford, has ties to Harbaugh. What happened there?
Weirdest controversy all the time. I mean, like he isn't getting an interview here, and I'm not sure what happened. I mean, there's two sides to every story. The side of the story I heard is that he wasn't going to be interviewed. I would assume that his side of the story is that he heard from somebody somewhere in the building and was led to believe that he was going to be part of that process, and that's how that gets out. I mean, Jane Slater's an amazing reporter. Has been reporting for a while. She's as plugged in as anybody in the league. So I'm sure that was good info. It's just it got shot down, and I mean sometimes that happens. I've put stuff out that's gotten shot down, and I know that my information on it was good. Something just changed after it came out. So I don't know what happened there. I have no idea, but I just know he's not interviewing. It would have been interesting to talk to him. I don't know that I would have had him as a top candidate on this list. But yeah, it's weird. Him and then the Davis Webb one came out, and that he also wasn't interviewing. So I don't know if I got my tinfoil hat on here, but two guys from Denver, both leaks were shot down. I have no idea what the hell's going on, but it's weird.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, I guess John Gruden's name got floated out a week or two. That feels like, I mean, my coworker, John Gruden, which is just still crazy and awesome. But that felt like more rumor, like that was more like his name getting floated. I felt like then it doesn't look like he's getting an interview.
Yeah, I mean, you guys would know better than me because you actually talked to John, but I don't, I think he has a high level of respect in this building. He was around in training camp. I think there were probably some conversations about the OC role last year, just seeing if he was interested. I know he consulted all throughout the year. He trains Jake Haener in the offseason, still has a great relationship with Derek Carr, Foster Moreau. Like, I just don't, I don't think that he's going to, like you said, I haven't heard anything that suggests that he's currently a candidate for this coaching search.
Yeah, I've actually had some talks with him about, like, he knows I'm the New Orleans guy in this building, so we talk, like, in-depth Saints, and he loves Mickey Loomis. He's all about it. He's come to practice. He's had a lot of good things to say about the organization, and so he was super positive about it, but I don't really know what that means. Okay, some other Saints questions we're going to get into around the NFL coaching and playoffs. All right, Derek Carr contract thing. I mean, if they let him go, it's obviously a lot of dead money. He's saying he won't take a pay cut. It's like a $40 million cap hit or whatever he's going to make next year. What do you know the difference in like if they cut him, how much the cap hit is versus bringing him back?
Yeah, it would be like 51 million to cut him, and then the salary's like around like 40, I think. So, but like they could make him a June 1st cut, and then I think you get $29 million back on June 2nd, and that just kind of splits the hit over 2 years. That doesn't really help you though, like as you're building your team this year, like because you're signing guys in March, so like you sometimes you can get some vets to sit on hold and then sign them in June, but like I don't think you're going out and getting any high level free agents that will give you some money to sign your draft class. But it really is probably most likely the path to building the best possible team is probably you keep them and then you cut them a year from now when that number is a little bit lower, so that you can fill out around them a little bit this year and your team isn't going in the gutter. But if you just want to get on the other side of it and say this isn't working, we're going to take the medicine now and have clean slate in 26 and be best positioned to kind of build out in 26 and start a rebuild, maybe you do look at it. I've asked around about kind of what's the approach going to be, and I genuinely believe that the next coach is going to have a lot of input in that process of who's staying, who's going, Carr being one of them, and I think they'll build it out how they want to do it. But look, Sean Payton showed you can cut someone and get into the playoffs really really quick, and I think that's what they would be hoping for here. But it might be something that's more feasible a year from now.
Yeah, and then also when you look at the Saints quarterback situation, you're already going to be paying Carr to go away, and then this just isn't near the quarterback draft that we had last year, and the Saints have the 8th or 9th pick overall. Yeah, I mean Cam Ward and Shador are kind of the highest ranked guys, but the draft stuff I follow saying they would be ranked behind Bo Nix last year, who went 12th, and both those guys are going to be gone, and there's not really any other big first round prospects, so I don't know how feasible that necessarily is. Could you see the Saints possibly maybe taking like another project quarterback in the draft to go with Carr and Rattler possibly?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something that they keep trying to do, see if they can strike gold in those middle rounds. If there's somebody there that they feel is being undervalued, I think they absolutely could do that for sure. And look, the other thing with cutting Carr is like, because you are in that cap situation minus $60+ million. If you cut them, you're adding another. You're at $100 million. It doesn't help you get out of that situation. So now you're restructuring Cam Jordan and DeMario and Tyron and all these guys. Like it's a horrible situation. So. And they wouldn't be able to sign anyone. Like you're almost looking at like filling out the roster with league minimum players if you make that cut. But if you do just want to get on the other side of it, yeah. But not a great quarterback draft, not a great year to be looking for one. But I don't know. Like something about paying him $40 million and not feeling like you're gonna do anything. Make the playoffs, win a playoff game. It just feels like a lot of wasted money. And it might just be time to kind of, this is the bad year, put it all in this year and be in a better place in 26.
That makes sense. Okay, Cam Jordan. I mean, I saw his tweet post game talk. Saying people don't necessarily go out you don't always go out in the best spot. Do you think he'll be back? He's already got such a big podcast, and he's on NFL Network already. Seems like there's an obvious transition to media coming for him. What do you think the chances are he's back next year?
He's playing another year. I don't know if it's here or somebody else. But he said that he's coming back to play, and he'll play against him if that's what it has to be. I mean, given what his contract is, and then the cap hit, the dead money, all that stuff. You always have to evaluate every Saints move through these like weird money things because they put themselves in these situations. I do think that there's probably the most feasible thing where it's like value plus not too much dead money is asking him maybe to take a pay cut and having him come back and be part of kind of that cultural rebuild with the new head coach. He can kind of maybe be a great locker room presence. I thought he did play better in the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season than he did in the first 10 or so. And that was after DA left and they changed his role and they changed up how they were doing things on the defensive line, fired the defensive line coach, moved the defensive line coach out of that role, replaced him with his assistant. Like the whole D-line started playing a little bit better, but there's no question that he's an older guy at the end of his career, and his best production is well behind him. And I don't think the money that he's being paid, I think $12 million, I don't think you can justify paying him $12 million next year, but I think there's still a lot of value there just in the locker room. So I would imagine there's a meeting in the middle somewhere, but if not, I mean, I think you see Cam go somewhere and maybe sign with a contender and try to get that ring that has evaded him throughout his career.
That's totally fair. Honey Badger's already, he signed a 2-year deal before the year. We know he's back. DeMario Davis looks like he'll be back too.
Yeah, I would imagine he's probably back too. Yeah.
Okay. On the offensive front, I want to ask about Taysom Hill because he's had so many injuries, had a season-ending injury. He's like 35, but he's still playing great when he's in there. I know he makes like $10 million. Do you think that? What do you think about his chances of being back?
I think he'll probably be back, but it's tough. Like, you're paying him a lot of money, and I think when he's healthy, he easily feels worth the money. But the problem is that he just never stays healthy, and the more you have him do, like, you saw them make his role bigger this year, and it was like, wow, like, this is really like something. But you just kind of knew the wheels were going to come out on it, because like, even going back to college, he struggled to stay healthy, and as you said, he's like in his mid 30s now. It's just hard to ask him to take all those hits. So again, it's another one of them propositions. They just got so many contracts where it's like, this guy's fine at the right price, but like, you're just paying him way too much money. Like, I don't know if there's a way to cut that down. He's been paid a lot of money over his career. I don't know that he, owes the team anything or anything like that, but like, there probably should be a conversation where you can try to get that kind of more commensurate with his availability, or maybe build in some bonuses where, hey, we'll pay you, a $7 million base, and no one else is going to pay him that much probably, but there'll be upside on it with incentives. Like, there has to be something where maybe you're kind of protecting yourself from the downside, and you're still offering him maybe more money than he would get on the open market, so that he does cut it down to that. But yeah, there has to be something. Though a lot of these equations got to change a little bit, I think, with how much they're being paid.
Yeah, I feel like I can already see the Denver Broncos jersey on Taysom. I feel like it's one of those things.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that feels inevitable. When you look at the core of it, and we'll get off the Saints in a second because we got a lot of stories. I'm sure they want to hear about other teams. I mean, you feel great if Olave and Shaheed stay healthy. You got a combo that's one of the best young ones in the NFL. McCoy, Ruiz, and Fuaga, I thought played really well. The first-round left tackle, he looks like a core for the future. So there are pieces on offense to be excited about. Kamara's signed that 2-year deal. He's still very good. The defensive side of the young guys, is there anybody you like building around? I mean, Brian Barisi showed some stuff this year.
It's tough over there, man. Like, I thought Kool-Aid McKinstry looked okay at the end of the season, but I don't know that I would call him a building block. Pete Werner's a solid piece, but I don't know that I would call him foundational. Like, the problem is that their foundation on defense, especially on defense, is that it's all guys that are like 30-plus years old. And Carl Granderson's solid, but he's not, a building block. He's kind of, just a piece. They're really, really like depleted on that side of the ball. There's not a lot to get excited about. That needs it needs a complete overhaul, I think.
Yeah, just the ghost of letting Trey Hendrickson move, still letting him go years ago, just still just crushing the team. All right, that's most of the Saints stuff. All right, I'm going to ask about the NFL head coaching situations. Now you got Raiders opening up. Obviously, Vrabel's being linked to the Pats for a million reasons. Played there, culture, Drake May, all that. You got Chicago, you got the Jets, you got the Saints, and you got the Jaguars. Of these jobs, which do you think is the most attractive?
I mean, I think I got to go Patriots at the top of the list. Like, they got Drake May and $130 million in cap space and really kind of nothing else. But at least it's a clean slate and you get to start over. And I think the added benefit there is if like things go bad for you as the coach, like Elliott Wolf's probably the next scapegoat. So, I think there's somebody that's getting fired before you get fired. The quick trigger, the one and done, kind of makes it a little bit nasty. You want to make sure you're going to a place where you got time to build it. But I think that's probably the top job to me. Chicago, I might go second. Like, Caleb Williams is going to attract somebody for sure. I don't know though. Like, if you were picking a guy, like, I think Caleb might have more upside, but like there's things about him that would just, I don't think the season went great for him. So I would put that one probably second, and then I think it's kind of dealer's choice after that. I think the Saints are probably closer to the bottom than the top of that list, but I think they're kind of in that lump with the Jets and the Raiders right there. The Jets, they got some good young pieces, but the Woody Johnson element of that is just so weird. I wouldn't want to be told what to do because somebody's Madden rating got changed, or have his teenage sons evaluating my roster or anything like that. That story that Diana and them had at the Athletic earlier this year was pretty damning for them. So I think if you're going in there, you got to know how you're dealing with Woody and making sure you're making the right statements in your interview, so he kind of knows that, hey, if I take this job, like, you're gonna have to be kept at bay, and make sure you're tied in with like a strong GM. Jacksonville, like, I would like that. Like, you could sell me on Trevor Lawrence if I'm a coach. Like, there's worse situations to get into, but then Trent Baalke, like, it just sounds like nobody wants to work with him, and that situation remains kind of weird. So I think there's the two good jobs, and then kind of like everything's in the eye of the beholder after that. The Raiders doesn't feel like a great job either. So yeah, I mean, I think there's just two good ones, and then dealer's pick after that.
Yeah, the Jaguars one's really interesting to me because Khan, as an owner, will spend money, and they're building a new stadium, and it's all about how much do you like Trevor Lawrence. And I mean, you're 2 years away from they won the AFC South and won a playoff game.
Yep.
Last year they were, 8-2 or 8-3 before the wheels fell off, and then this year they fell off a cliff. You got Brian Thomas, who looks like a young stud piece, and
Yep.
they're also in a division that part of this has to be like the AFC South's weak. So, I don't know. I saw that Liam Cohen, the Bucks OC, being linked to that job, and he did a damn good job for Baker this year. I could see that.
Where you got it? How you rank them?
I would rank them okay. I think the Jags job's better than people think, but I like the Pats one just because the clean slate of it in May, and also think the AFC East is kind of wide open with the Jets and Dolphins problems other than Buffalo. And I think, after Kraft, I know usually the Patriots are super stable, but they're not going to go one and done again on a coach. So I think that's one just because that clean slate thing. I actually like the Jags job, though, a little bit, just for the reasons I said. I just think the AFC, I think so much of it has to do with how bad. I mean, the Titans are, God bless. Talk about rudderless ship. And, Houston won the division, and D'Amico's doing a damn good job, but, they're not. They're very good. I just don't think they're super elite. So I think you can come in that division and have an effect. And plus, what is it? The dollar always, speaks the loudest. And I feel like Khan will give Ben Johnson 15 or 20 million. He doesn't care. So I think that job's a little better. The Raiders thing's interesting because of the Tom Brady thing. Do you think he's going to try to make a crazy bidding war move at Vrabel just because he knows him? But everything else about that Raiders job, other than Vegas, is terrible. You don't have a quarterback, and then you got Sean Payton, Andy Reid, and Jim Harbaugh in your division. How the hell are you going to win there? That's the toughest. To me, that's just such a bad path. And then, as you mentioned, the Jets thing, you're talking about a total mess. You don't have a GM. Rodgers is going to be gone. You've got ownership questions. The story, you mentioned the Woody Johnson story, the London game thing. He was embarrassed that he was the ambassador to the UK, and he was embarrassed they lost that game to the Vikings, and he just fires Salah after because of that. I don't know. It seemed pretty unprofessional. So I think the Jets would be ranked last, and then you also have to deal with the New York media and living in New York, which I didn't love doing. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens. The Joe Brady thing. Last thing on that. Him interviewing with the Bears, I think that would be real interesting if they linked him up with Caleb with their offensive potential. I think that might be a fit.
I had the same thought as you as soon as I seen the Raiders job open a day later, and then the whole Brady thing. Him and Vrabel are friends. I wondered if they kind of got some insight into something, but everybody seems to think that Patriots situation is a done deal. But yeah, that one's tough to me. And yeah, New York, the media aspect of it, quick trigger. If you're bad, you're just gonna get murdered by the press every single day. It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. But someone's gonna want that big market, and someone's gonna see it as a positive. But for me, I would stay away from that.
Yeah, the one other thing I think is fascinating was the rumors on the Ben Johnson Bears thing was that he wants his buddy that's the assistant GM of the Commanders to come in with him.
Yeah.
And that's a fascinating dynamic. Would the Bears, be willing to move on from Poles and, shake up their staff? Because last year there were all kinds of rumors that Harbaugh wanted to come back to Chicago, and him and Kevin Warren didn't get along from the Big Ten days with all the COVID mess. And, they had a shot at Harbaugh, and they passed on him, and then look, it blew up. So I know there's a lot of organizational questions up here, to say the least.
Yeah. And Ben's not moving until he gets everything he wants. So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how patient he's been, because usually you see these assistants, jump because it's hard to get those NFL head coaching jobs. But, he's got such a good situation in Detroit. And, I don't know. Detroit better win it this year, though, because they lose Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. That's going to be hard to replace.
Yeah.
All right, NFL playoff stuff. I know you follow the whole league. My thoughts on it, we're looking at the matchups this weekend. Some really good games. The Ravens, big favorite over Pittsburgh. Boy, this Pittsburgh thing's kind of falling off a cliff down the stretch. Granted, they played four really good teams. They lost to the Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens, et cetera. But do you think there's, it being a playoff game and their familiarity with the Ravens, and they've had some success against Lamar, I think they might can fight them and keep it lower scoring. I don't know if I can see them winning.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game, but yeah, ultimately, I'm definitely taking the Ravens in that one, and it has kind of went off the rails a little bit for Pittsburgh here coming down the stretch. So, I just like the way the Ravens are playing in this game. But yeah, divisional foe, they know each other so well. It feels like it's going to be a low scoring slugfest, but ultimately, I think Russell turns the ball over. The Ravens are going to be able to run on them. Like I think the Ravens are. I think the Ravens are poised here to maybe do a little something. So I'm fascinated to see if Lamar can kind of change the postseason narrative on himself a little bit. I think it's I think that's a little bit unfair, but it just feels like he's playing amazing football right now, and I definitely could not bet against them against the Steelers.
Yeah, and then when you look at it, I mean, having Derrick Henry to hand the ball off to, especially this time of year, I feel the same way about the Ravens. I actually think they match up really well. They killed the Bills in Sunday Night Football in early October, like 34-10. But I think that if that's a second round matchup, the Bills kind of have an undersized defense. I mean, I feel the same way as you. I think the Ravens are about to make a run to the AFC Championship. The Chargers-Texans game's real interesting. Like, the Chargers are a slight favorite. Texans really limped down the stretch. I mean, the Diggs injury got them, the Tank Dell injury. C.J. Stroud, he was banged up this year, but man, really kind of took a step back. And I'm curious, what do you think about that game? I feel like this might be another low-scoring one, kind of.
I kind of feel like Houston doesn't have a chance in this game. Like, I don't think their secondary is very good right now. I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with Ladd. Like, I don't like it for them at all. I think they're too banged up. I just don't think that they're in that position of strength where they want to be coming into this game. I think the Chargers got this one.
Yeah, I kind of lean that way too. And I'm thinking Chargers, Chiefs, and Ravens, Bills would be the second round. The Sunday games, okay, Sean, obviously, all familiar with Sean Payton. I mean, unbelievable. One of the best coaching jobs I've ever seen with Bo Nix. I mean, you watched him week 1, week 2. He was like seeing deer in headlights. And then you fast forward to the end of the year, and he's going 18 for 19 in the first half for 200-something yards, and had really one of the better rookie quarterback seasons you ever seen. Are they ready to have a shot here at Buffalo? They're a big underdog. It's like 8.5 or 9. But as good as the Bills are, I feel like their defense has some questions. I mean, I don't think it's like a sure thing. Do you give Denver a chance?
I got the Bills cooking them, I think, but I'm with you. The job he did with Bo was incredible, and even just what was it, like October, that Thursday night game here in New Orleans, that like Bo looked terrible in that game, and then by the end of the season, he's making plays. So yeah, I'm probably overstating it a little bit. I mean, I think Denver will be competitive, but I don't think they're ready to play with the Bills. I think they're probably a year away from really kind of being, that mature, ready team that can come in and win a playoff game in a tough atmosphere too. So I got to go Bills here. Would you say it was 8 points?
Yeah, it's 8.5. I mean, that's what's tough. I agree. I feel like Denver just getting to the playoffs, the rookie quarterback. I feel like this is the ceiling for this year. But it's just a lot of points, like I said, and that kind of concerned me a little bit. And then the other Sunday matchups, Green Bay really limping in here. Jordan Love banged up, Christian Watson tore his ACL, Alexander out at corner. Their passing game has just looked so out of sync the last couple weeks. I mean, Love had like 64 yards passing in the fourth quarter of that Minnesota game. I feel like I hadn't seen what happened. Hurts still in concussion protocol is a concern, because it feels like he should be out by now. But having said that, I feel like people are sleeping on the Eagles a little bit. Like, the fact that they lost that Commanders game and Hurts has been out the last couple of weeks, I mean, they're a pretty damn complete football team, and Hurts and AJ and Devontae are healthy, and their defense, really good defensive line, their secondary took a big step forward. I mean, I kind of think the Eagles mash them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm not impressed with Green Bay right now. I don't think they're playing great, and I've liked the Eagles the whole season, man. Like, I don't know if it was the way last season went or whatever, but it feels like they've kind of flown a little bit further under the radar than they should have. But they got good coaching back there, good coordinators. I feel like they're like a sneaky contender in the NFC, and like as a number 2, like it shouldn't be sneaky, but it just feels like people are overlooking them a little bit more than they should. I like them. I like them in damn near any matchup in the NFC bracket.
I agree. The coordinator hires of Kellen Moore going into the year, like I felt like he always abandoned the run when he was the Cowboys and Chargers OC, so I was a little concerned how he'd use Barkley, and then Barkley just runs for 2,000 yards, and they run 55% of their plays. I mean, I thought he did a spectacular job, and then they got Fangio in there. replacing Matt Patricia or whatever the hell they had. And then the Quinyon Mitchell pick, he was one of the best corners in the NFL as a rookie, and they're stout in the D-line. I think they're the most complete football team in the NFC, and I agree with you. Commanders, Bucks, Jaden Daniels, obviously one of the best rookie seasons of all time, especially considering, other than McLaurin, like, what are the weapons they have? Tampa, the Baker Mayfield, last few years, just like right with, they signed Baker for nothing when the Saints signed Carr, and look how that turned out. I kind of lean Tampa here a little bit just because Tampa weakness is that pass D, but like the Commanders don't really have the best weapons other than McLaurin, but that should be a fun matchup regardless.
Yeah, I don't have a strong take on this one. I could see it going either way. Tampa just looks so bad closing out the season. I'm going to go with Washington here. They tried everything they could to lose that game against the banged up Saints team, but I don't have a strong take on this one. I just kind of feel like there might be a couple explosives for the Commanders, and they found a way to win.
And then finally, the Monday night one. What a weird deal. Like, I can't imagine what Minnesota Vikings fans felt like on Monday. All year, Darnold playing way above his head. You won a lot of close games. You could watch them and analyze like, hey, there's no way they're this good. Like, but you kept waiting on them to like regress and lose games, and they just never did. And you look up, you're 14-2, but you still are kind of like, are they elite or are they not? And then the way they got exposed on Sunday night was really rough. It seemed like the Lions' corners were jamming them a little bit, and Darnold was holding on to the ball. He played a just terrible game, probably cost himself, I can't even imagine how many millions of dollars, them being a free agent. And now you go 14-3, and you got to go on the road against McVay and Stafford and a team that's confident in the playoffs. O'Connell off the McVay tree, so he knows a ton about them. I don't know. I have a hard time believing the Vikings are going to win this game. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, this is the toughest one on the slate, I think. The Rams, just the way they turned around their season and the way they're playing and the momentum and all that stuff like that, it's tough. This is a huge game. I can't bet against Flores, though. Like, he's just had such a good, creative season. There's probably some pissed off energy with him right now because he's not getting the head coach looks that he probably should be getting in the cycle. Like, he probably should be a better candidate. He might be out to like prove something, and that's kind of like a bullshit thing to say as far as picking teams. But I think he's going to cook something up here, and I think I gotta go Vikes. I'm gonna go against you on this one. Kind of feels like a coin flip a little bit, but yeah, I'm going to go Vikings in this game. I think their defense shows up. But look, Sam Darnold can't play like he did in the red zone, like he did against the Lions. Like, I thought the Lions had a good plan against them last week in the red zone, did some stuff, but like he missed some throws too. And if he's missing high again this week, they just can't. They won't be able to overcome it. You can't squander opportunities. But I think their defense is going to win them this game.
Okay, but yeah, it should be a great weekend. Awesome college football. Like, Thursday night, Friday night college football playoffs, then 2 NFL games Saturday, 3 Sunday, 1 Monday. Pretty good football feast. Last 2 things I got for you. Obviously, a terrible, just unspeakable tragedy in New Orleans on New Year's Eve. What's the vibe like down there right now?
People here are just so resilient, man. Like, it's just kind of rallying around it. The community's kind of, just showing what it is, like how it just always bounces back. But at some point, like, we got to stop having to bounce back from shit. Like, it's just getting, it's just something's always happening, and it's frustrating to see, some of the stuff that's come out about the barriers not being up and, all the different things they could have done. And this felt preventable. And, I think our city leaders need to do a better job of keeping people safe, whether it's stuff like this or it's, fixing a drain. So when there's a heavy rain, the roads aren't flooding because we get hurricanes here. Like, some of this infrastructure stuff needs to get better. And yeah, like, the spirit of the city won't ever be broken, and no one's ever going to, put New Orleans on its knees and knock it out. But, the people that are supposed to be protecting us need to do a better job of that. And I hope there's some frustration in City Hall and some actual self-reflection, because like it's bullshit that like people lost their lives and more could have been done. Like, get the barrier up, have, it's New Year's Eve, like, something's going to be happening. And, it's frustrating to know that people just drop the ball across the board here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And there's like an interesting power struggle in Louisiana with the new governor, Jeff Landry. There's a lot of state police presence in the French Quarter this fall, which was seemed like it was received positively. And now you got the Super Bowl coming up. And, I mean, the whole world going to be down in New Orleans that week. Obviously they're going to be heightening up security and stuff. But, I'm sure it'll be super safe and they'll go, above and beyond. But, man, just always hate to see bad stuff happening in NOLA. You got any big plans for Super Bowl week?
Just gonna be covering the game, man. We'll be set up on Radio Row doing some stuff, and just hanging out, trying to figure out what's going on. With maybe the Saints will have a coach by then, but yeah, just that's pretty much it. I'm sure you'll be down here, so we got to link up for sure. But yeah, just kind of gonna be working the scene all week.
All right, and last thing for you, New Orleans football. You've built a really fun brand. Kind of went on your own, built your own thing. You're doing live streams. If you're a Saints fan, highly recommend. I mean, I feel like it's not even highly recommend. I think if you're a real Saints fan, you should be a member because Nick's more plugged into the team than anybody. How are things going? Because you're, about 3 years into that now?
Man, we're coming up on year 5 in February, 5-year anniversary. Yeah, started it right before COVID last year, Drew Brees. And yeah, really it's just about, our success is really just about Saints fans caring about their team and caring about, all the details and all the inner workings and, wanting film breakdowns. And it's just a passion of the city, really. I mean, they've elevated us. We're nothing if they don't give a damn about their football team. And, it's me, Mike Triplett, Brandon Thomas, we're just trying to work as hard as we can to make sure we feed that passion and trying to find new creative ways to do different things. I'd be lying if I didn't say, I don't look at and study some of the stuff Portnoy's done and try to incorporate, some ideas into that in the daily coverage of a team. I mean, you guys are obviously incredibly innovative in the stuff you do and have changed the sports media landscape probably more than anybody as a company. So, but yeah, we're just trying to find new ways to do it and make sure that we're showing up and have the same passion in our coverage as the fans do for their team, and they've elevated me and this company to heights that I didn't think were possible when I decided to start it 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's impressive to see what's been built, especially because what you said earlier, because when the Saints are making playoff and Super Bowl runs, I mean, it's got to be easy to do business. But the fact that you've been able to build it during this really bad stretch, says a lot about what y'all are doing.
Yeah, someday I would like them to just win games where it becomes easy to sell subscriptions after a game. But they've made us work for it. But look, someday it's going to turn around. Hopefully soon. I think it's probably going to be a few years. But yeah, we definitely started this thing in the darkest of times for this organization. Last year of kind of good times. But it's been interesting and informative, and in some ways going through a season like this one with our business model has been a little bit it's challenging at times, but it's a relief too because I feel like we're kind of finding out what the floor is, and if you know what the floor is, you can disaster prep a little bit better. So, the passion's still there even in the bad times. But yeah, I mean, if I had started this thing in say 16 and caught the upswing at 17, 18, 19, it would be it would be a lot easier, and we'd probably be having a different conversation right now. But look, we've been able to build this thing bigger and better than I thought it was ever going to be, even imagining good times. So yeah, it's been a great experience so far.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank Nick Underhill so much. Follow him on Twitter. Follow NOF Network for any Saints coverage, and hope to see you down in New Orleans for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Nick Underhill. Check that out, NOF Network. Wow, I thought that was going to be 20 minutes, and it went 50. But, also, thanks to Dude Wipes, cleaning up all our messes. Walmart, Amazon, Target, nationwide. You'll never need dry, scratchy, crappy toilet paper again. Let's pound some Stella Blue coffee. Let's go have a hell of a day, boys. And we'll be back tomorrow on Wake Up Mintzy previewing the college football playoffs. Thanks to Tyler Moody as well.